WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. I hope y'all bought your level 58 boosts because we're talking BC Classic on WoW Killer today. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Garrett Weinzerl here as always with the already giggling Taliesin.
Straight in with the level boost, you dirty, dirty stop out. I love it. Straight for the jugular, straight for the throat. I love it. Good work. Oh, it's so nice to be here. This is going to be a good show, I can tell. Nothing controversial to talk about today.
No.
Oh, no. Basically, it's a love-in. We're just going to tell each other how wonderful we are and be like, that was such a good show. I love it when you're not controversial. I love it when you don't say anything that could upset small subsects of people or even big ones.
There's nothing controversial in BC Classic at all, least of which streamer privilege and you and I already being in the beta.
Yeah, we're in the friends and family and streamer beta. Yeah, totally. I'm really enjoying it. Do you know what I enjoy doing? I enjoy going on to Twitter, that's right, and I enjoy making Twitter posts which are like, didn't bother playing the beta today, couldn't be fussed. Luckily there's no one else who wants to play, so just don't know why they gave it to me. Another day gone without playing beta.
Y'all jealous right now? You know what we're doing right now? People who want the BC beta, not playing BC. We're going to sit here and talk about how we're not playing.
No, but we are, though. That's a joke.
We are, though. Yeah. I resurrected my stream. I did a Classic and Coffee stream for the first time in like a year yesterday.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. I used to watch those all the time. Oh, no, I used to drink coffee all the time. Sorry, that's what I meant. I meant just the coffee bit.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I'll watch the VOD. Was it good? Did you enjoy it? Because obviously today we're talking about Burning Crusade Classic, or should I say Burning Crusade Classic? Am I right? Am I right?
Cash that check.
Am I right, boys? Burning Crusade Classic.
Oh boy, yeah.
Cash Shop Crusade.
I don't think I've ever shared this thought with you, Taliesin, but there was a bit where I was trying to workshop that every episode of this podcast should start with me going, and you know what's killing WoW this week?
Oh, that would have been a really good
WoW.
Yeah, we should have done that in hindsight.
So, because you know what's killing WoW this week? Burning Crusade Classic.
Because
that's where all the hype. It's just this hype.
Why didn't we?
It's a hype black hole where, like, retail's boring as shit right now, and all of the WoW, all the new shinies is actually old WoW. It's Burning Crusade Classic. The beta started this week. Everyone's streaming it. It's what everyone's talking about. Because what else are you going to talk about? The fact that you have Valor points, but you can't spend them on anything because you can't get the shit you need to upgrade to drop?
Speak for yourself. I'm a Mythic Plus badass. I love that stuff.
Actually, finally got my first raid weapon last week after I was carried to ahead of the curve.
Was it? You were carried to it? Aren't we all?
Dude, I was dead for the majority of the freaking fights. I was so bad. Shout out to my buddies in the Integrity Guild. Thank you for getting me ahead of the curve.
Oh, you got carried by a band called Integrity. The irony, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, the irony, indeed. Yeah. Also, shout out.
This was my Integrity ahead of the curve, and yet.
Yeah, dude. Turns out weapons are really important when you're a weapon-based class. I got my weapon off Denathrius. My damage is decent now.
Nice. No more. You'll be the one carrying now.
I replaced a 180. It was 180 something with a 213. It was a swing. It was a swing.
You are my hero. You're wonderful.
But you and I,
Garrett, what you're doing right now is you're talking about Shadowlands, which is not what we're doing today. We're talking about the Burning Crusade Classic, or should I say, Burning Crusade money.
Burning Crusade, buy your boost. The buying boost crusade. Burning boost crusade. We'll figure something out by the end of the podcast.
There are like some very important and very emotive and very controversial subjects to broach in this episode, which seems like the perfect time to be doing this with Burning Crusade, because we never like had a proper kind of dedicated episode to Burning Crusade Classic.
No, we've had a few member berries episodes where it was brought up, but we never focused on it as the sole topic.
Get in there underneath the hood and talk about like our experiences of it, your kind of experiences, it probably being a lot more valid than mine, considering you played the original as well. But like, you know,
it's not a contest. It's
no, but if it
listen.
Were, you would win.
And Daddy and Mommy love BC equally. Yeah. We still love you, BC.
Oh, the Boosting Crusade. Yeah, that's good.
There it is. The Boosting Crusade.
Can we replace the S with Crusade with a $sign though? Can we do that just for like added spice? That'd be good.
Oh, we can totally do that. Yeah.
There's lots of emotive subjects to talk about, but also just the joy of having it here and having it like available to play and things like that. But just to confirm, we've both got beta, and have you been putting much time into it?
I not much time, but like more time than I normally. I get beta. I'll go in, I just dink around and then move on with my life, because you know it's fleeting and I don't want to burn myself out on things. Although this is strange because it's WoW I've already played through.
You don't want it to be the burning out crusade.
Exactly. I'm going to start singing Green Day. Yeah, whatever the case is, I did a 3-hour stream yesterday. I was like, yeah, let me dust off the old Classic and Coffee stream, fire it up. And yeah, I went out, made a Blood Elf Hunter, because while I can boost, I'm not going to be able to boost a Blood Elf. And that makes me sad because I don't want to do that slow leveling again. And stream for a while. And yeah, it's so I've got more beta experience than I would normally have, though probably less than a lot of people listening. I wouldn't be surprised if some listeners who are in the beta right now have put more time in than me. But yeah, no, I did a good stint yesterday. I legitimately died to a Fell Reaver. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, I've had the Burning Crusade experience.
You got killed by the Fell Reaver?
Yes.
I one-shotted it.
Oh, well, I mean, you're the best World of Warcraft player in the world, so I
just pressed my normal buttons and it just died. And also, as it died, it went, "Thank you, Taliesin, for killing me." It'll be something.
It was an honor to be murdered by the one.
I don't even know what people are talking about.
Taliesin.
I don't even know what people are talking about when it comes to the Fell Reaver piece of piss.
All right, I know that's a lie, because even if you could accomplish that, you would still be in the process of killing it.
Okay,
right now.
I have many predictions about Burning Crusade Classic, okay? And one of my predictions is that the majority of players will never see the Fell Reaver because it will always be dead. Because from day one, there are going to be raids of people killing that mofo, and most people won't even see it until like at least 3 weeks in, when people have stopped doing that and got bored. I predict people won't even see the thing.
Well, they're doing sharding, right? So they're going to be keeping population levels to a decent amount. So I disagree. I think you're going to see them. I think depending on the server that you're on. Listen, if you're on like some really ultra famous YouTube streamers server,
which I am by default, right?
I'm sorry, I was not talking about your server, Taliesin. I'm talking about famous YouTubers, okay? It's really going to depend on what server you're on. I think realistically, if you're going to see the Fell Reaver or not, I'm certain there are certain servers where that will be 100% true. You're just going to be walking past Fell Reaver corpses.
You're
going to roll Horde side, and they're going to be like, "Go to Reaver's Fall," and you're going to be like, "Every 5 feet is Reaver's Fall. Where am I going?"
It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and I've jumped in there as well, which is really good. I jumped in there, said it was boring and rubbish, turned it off, and then when my chat complained, I said I still deserve it more than you. Obviously it's not what happened. I went in there and I played it because I am actually like genuinely, and I've said before on this show that I wasn't that excited about Burning Crusade Classic. I was very hyped for Classic, and that came from a place of I wanted to experience a museum piece, and I wanted to like experience the game that I love and that I play like every day of my life. I wanted to experience it in its original form, and a form that lots of people had kind of eulogized and built up and talked about in very favorable terms. And I just wanted to do that, and especially since the Cataclysm and things like that. And I started playing in Wrath, so I remember the old world, and I remember and I just wanted to see that. And it was a bit nostalgia, but it was mostly I wanted to walk through a museum, and I just wanted to see what it was like. And that's why I was hyped for Classic. And I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the game on its own terms. I was surprised by how, in many ways, I didn't expect it was like incredibly similar to modern WoW as well. And I loved every moment. I got to a point where I didn't really want to play it anymore, so I didn't. And that was that. And I always thought, well, I've kind of done that now. I've enjoyed my museum piece, and I therefore don't have like too much hype for the Burning Crusade because, again, I don't have much nostalgia for Burning Crusade. I didn't play it at release. That comes with Wrath. So do I really want another museum piece? And so for that reason, even though we always knew Burning Crusade was coming, and that's another thing, like I was never hyped about the announcement of Burning Crusade Classic because we all expected it and we all knew it was coming, and the announcement came exactly when we expected it to come, and the release date or the release kind of frame is exactly when we expect it to be, and there's no surprises about it, and aren't going to be many surprises about the game either, obviously, and so there was just not too much hype around it, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably pop in and say hello or whatever, but I can't see myself playing it. But more recently, in the last few weeks, I found myself against my better judgment and to my own surprise, getting more and more hyped for it, to be honest, and looking forward to playing it more and more. And I think that's because of the story content that I'm really looking forward to. Like I enjoy the day-to-day gameplay of WoW, obviously, but I'm also like a big story and lore guy, and the idea of I've got my lore master in game. Obviously, I've done all of the TBC content. I've done every quest in that expansion, but I'm like, I'm really looking forward to going in there and going to Hellfire Citadel and going to all the other zones, which I've seen much less than Hellfire Peninsula, because characters don't get a chance to level through there so much. And I'm really looking forward to playing through it as it was originally and seeing the story as it was originally and all the rest of it. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm kind of excited about doing that, especially as the story and the questing is more recognizable and more what I like in Burning Crusade than Classic, than vanilla. Like obviously by modern standards it's sprawling and inefficient and all over the place, but there's only a few zones there, right? And the through line is a lot more obvious and pronounced, and it's just a more streamlined experience. It's only 10 levels as well, and that really, really appeals to me, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I think I've mentioned this before, even though I did play vanilla, Burning Crusade has way more nostalgia for me, because as I've also mentioned before, it didn't hit max in original vanilla, which means I didn't raid, and so that means Burning Crusade is the first time I ever played it endgame in World of Warcraft, like as a live game, and the first time I raided, and so I just have Taliesin. When I hear the Karazhan music, it is a sensed memory, dude. I get warped back to simpler times playing on a MacBook Pro.
See,
that
I keep forgetting that
handle
Karazhan's even a part of TBC. I think of the Outlands, and I forget about Karazhan at all, and that'll be super fun.
Yeah, it was that raid. I love that raid. Spent a lot of time in there. So like I'm kind of I don't know. People keep asking me like if I think I'm going to be playing a lot of Burning Crusade Classic, and I think like the answer is just like depends on my friends. I think I'm a lot more likely to hit max in a reasonable amount of time than Classic, where I'm still not max. But in terms of like beyond that, I don't know, because my favorite bits of BC was raiding, and I'm gonna require friends to do that. It's not something that I can just go do willy-nilly. LFR didn't exist. Pickup raiding was a little more arduous to pull off. So I don't know. I'm fairly certain I'll hit max level, but I don't know beyond that what my BC Classic experience is going to look like.
Interesting. So I mean, would you be surprised if you started off in if you went into like organized content and max level content?
I would. I think if it like, especially if it like happened like right away. And I think a lot of it's just going to come down to how does this sync up with content releases and retail?
Sure.
Because I'm really enjoying Shadowlands. Like if BC Classic came out right now, oh my God, it'd be perfect. Because I'm bored. I'm bored with retail at the moment. It'd be like, cool. I'm going to go cheat on retail. I'm going to go, relive the glory days of BC. The timing would be wonderful. But
does it feel, if you like, that's just an interesting term you've used, to cheat on retail. Like if you're cheating on retail with TBC, is it a bit like you're cheating with their mother?
It'd be like, well, that's creepy. Also could be creepy is be like, no, there's no way this isn't creepy.
I know.
Is it?
I gave you what we call in the trade a hospital pass. There's no right answer. You can't.
There is no right answer because I'm like, is it more going in a time machine and hanging out with your wife when she was younger when you first met, which is also creepy because then I'd be older.
It's very hard. Yeah. It's like you go out with Benjamin Button, and
I don't.
And like you've gone back in time to cheat on it with an older version of him because he's Benjamin Button.
I hate everything about this line of thinking, so let's pull out of it and talk about anything else.
I would like to see the Snyder cut of Benjamin Button. Get Snyder in there, give Snyder the rushes of Benjamin Button, let him make it all slow motion and put loads of Jesus imagery in. I think we've got something there. I think that'd be really good. Gone is the whimsical, like, fairy tale Amelie music, and instead...
I'd rather see the Bourne Identity cut of Benjamin Button where you can't tell what's happening because the editing is so atrocious.
It's like, Benjamin Button's like, yeah, I just like...
Just shaky cam during that lovely effect shot of him looking old.
I like Benjamin Button like branding people and putting them in jail. And when I was watching Benjamin Button, I was like, this film feels like it's 4 hours long, but you know what would be better is if it were 4 hours long. So,
well, BC Classic will take you more than 4 hours to get through. I can promise you that much. I can promise you that much, Taliesin.
Yeah. So, like, I went in. I haven't decided what I'm playing in TBC yet. Or I think I have. I think I might be doing a shaman. Might be doing shaman in TBC. What do you think about that?
Well, more important question, are you doing Draenei Shaman or are you doing a Horde Shaman? I
think I might be doing Horde because most of the time that I've gone through that expansion, I've done it on Alliance stuff. And whereas I do love that, I was watching Evie play it on stream, and she, when she got to on a hold and was walking around there and stuff, it did give me some feels, absolutely.
Translation for the audience at home, Taliesin doesn't want to level from 1 on a Draenei Shaman.
I don't. Why would I do that? Well, okay, so that's a very good way of broaching like one of the main topics of this conversation, because we could talk about, your actual TBC nostalgia and my kind of like subliminally implanted TBC nostalgia, which comes from somewhere but not TBC because I didn't play it. Like, we could talk about that all day. I'm sure we could, and maybe we will. But also, there are some big changes from TBC in terms of philosophy over Classic, because Classic obviously was very much focused around #no changes as much as possible. And that's not really the case with Burning Crusade, right? Like Burning Crusade Classic, or TBCC, if you will, is very much quite a lot of changes. And that seems to be part of the general design philosophy and their approach to the game, is that it's like, you know what? Changes are all right, and we're going to do them. And it's been really interesting to see which changes the Classic community, who I think overall and predominantly in the build-up to Vanilla Classic, were very much and very, very... the majority was very much like no changes as much as possible, and very hardcore about it. And sometimes small minorities of the crowd were quite abusive about it. It's interesting to see which changes that community is not just happy with, but actually like embracing of, which changes spark the same sort of anger that they would have done before Burning Crusade, before Vanilla? Because it's not always the changes that I would expect. But do you have like a list of changes that are coming in Classic?
I've got some of them up right here. Yeah. Because I mean, there's quite a few. The like we just jokingly mentioned the boost, right? Like we're going to be able to we have the option of purchasing a boost once.
That's massive,
right? And for a level 58, by the way, which you're getting, I guess, a bit of a sneak peek right now if you go play the beta, which we both have, and they give you garbage gear.
Okay, but another fun thing is at the moment in the beta, they give you gear that isn't in Burning Crusade. It's like, my understanding is the gear that you get is gear specially created for the boost at the moment. So that's another thing that is, by the way, hashtag quite a few changes.
To me, I feel like if you already are offering a boost, the fact that you're making like custom shit gear to give that boosted character is a footnote compared to the fact that boosts exist at all.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's absolutely a footnote, but footnotes can be very valuable. Garrett, that's all. Just pointing it out. Just pointing out, like it's not just the boost which is new here. Like there's actual like multiple in-game items which yes are shit, but are not TBC original. And not vanilla original items either. They're items that did not exist in the original game that will be being worn by lots of characters. So it's worth pointing out in a conversation about no changes, right?
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. So I guess, but I'm also curious, like, I think you and I tend to, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, we tend to not be so precious. Whether I did play back in the day, you didn't play back in the day, I think we both are kind of on the same wavelength of, yeah, fine with changes. Like, fine. If you think something needs updating, update that thing. That's how I feel. That's kind of how you feel about these classic re-releases?
Yeah, well, I mean, now, yeah, and like in the build up to Classic Vanilla, I was very much no changes. I was quite adamantly no changes. I wouldn't go around harassing people about it, but that was my opinion, and the reason for that was quite selfish. It was that I wanted that museum piece. I wanted to feel like as closely as possible, I was having the experience that I would have done had I been playing the game at release. Like, obviously, in a much nicer chair, and with a better haircut and a nicer screen, and a bigger willy. But, like, nevertheless, it just gets bigger as you get older, Garrett. I can't help it. I'm an old man. And I wanted that experience as closely as possible. Like if there was a game-breaking bug in one of the quests, I wanted that game-breaking bug to be replicated, and I wanted it to be in vanilla. I didn't want them fixing that because I wanted the same experience that people at the time did. And furthermore, I wanted to be able to join in conversations like on some kind of level with people who had played Classic. So I didn't want to be like, oh, that quest was really good. And they were like, what? I couldn't do that when I played back in the day. There was a game-breaking bug that I was like, I want that replicated. I wanted the game-breaking bugs in there. And for the most part, I got that in Classic. And that was fun. And I enjoyed it. And now that I've had that museum piece, like I say, in Burning Crusade, I'm a lot more chilled out about it. So like I feel like we should put our necks on the line here a little bit, and I should ask you the question that might result in you getting doxxed and death threats, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How do you feel about the boost, Garrett? What's your opinion on it?
Oh, I'm personally very happy that they're offering it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Here come the death threats.
Maybe change your passwords.
I am very, very glad I use two-factor for anything that's important. I'm planning to return to regular Classic and finish maxing out my hunter and getting enough gold for epic mount. That's my hopeful plan. Mm-hmm. To get ready for BC. I still may just boost a warrior because I think I want a tank in BC.
Nice.
And so I'm most likely going to take advantage of the boost, and I'm glad too, because if like my wife may get a hair to finally come back and start messing with Classic again, and then we can just jump in and start playing together. So like that kind of accessibility and like social accessibility too. Like it just makes this an easier experience to share with your friends.
Sure.
Which I am all for. And having just gone through the Dark Portal yesterday as level 58 with the gear they give you, it's not a cakewalk. I die. It took forever for me to kill anything, and like I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. But as I already stated, I'm not really a purist in that way. I think there is a line that you can cross with making too many changes. So far, I don't really think they're going too far with any of it, except maybe the rollout of content.
I'll be interested to hear your opinion on that when we get to it, for sure.
Yeah,
because that's an interesting one. Much like it was in Vanilla Classic, is an interesting question. But can you appreciate some of the arguments against the boost at least?
I can see where you're coming from. I just don't personally feel this. I don't feel the same way.
Okay, well, I mean, you do, because I am also in favor of the boost.
No, I was talking about
I see.
The counterpoint.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of the boost. I don't care. I might not use it because my classic character isn't far off max level, and it wouldn't be much for me to jump in and get her there and be prepared, like having not done any raids or whatever in classic.
It's Burning Crusade. You cannot be prepared. That's the whole point of the expansion, Taliesin.
Well, the irony is, of course, people are going to be so damn prepared.
We are so fucking prepared. It's funny how prepared we are.
Those bosses are going down in minutes. Like, so prepared. Consider yourself served. Oh, I know. Taliesin, the attunements, though, Taliesin. No, those bosses are going down in, like, 9 days.
We know exactly what we need to do for those attunements.
Absolutely. And,
Have you seen I'll link it in the post for this episode. Have you seen the spreadsheet, though, of attunements? Or the flow chart? I'm linking you something in Discord right now. It's a flowchart of attunements. Well, and it's vanilla versus BC, and it's I forgot how bananas some of the attunements were for BC.
I mean, yeah, they sound pretty crazy. I mean, I'll give you my opinion on them when I've done them, or when I've been in a group with someone who has, which is far more likely. Anyway, I mean, I'm down. So I might not use the boost, or I might, to get my shaman ready, and do my shaman stuff, because my current is a priest in Classic. But like, just from a kind of a gameplay point of view and a through line point of view, I would find it much more satisfying to, like you're going to try and do, get my character up to max and have the same character go through from vanilla into BC, definitely. But I mean, yeah, I'm not bothered by the boost, because I mean, it's Burning Crusade Classic, right? It's people are going to be coming to play it because they want to play Burning Crusade, and it is a game in its own right, and it's a very good game in its own right, and it's a surprisingly good for some people game in its own right, and it's going to have a thriving community that play it, but it's not like it was when BC was released for the first time, and we moved from Classic into BC. It's like, there is an element of nostalgia and museum piece about it, and people are going to want to come because they have like these excellent memories of going to Hellfire Peninsula, and they want to relive that, and that's what they want. They don't want to be going back to Elwyn Forest or even Azimist Isle, and they don't, to not allow people to do that would seem churlish and kind of damaging for the game that you're trying to release, really.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree with you. One of I think the strongest revelations of modern World of Warcraft, or the modern World of Warcraft design team, was realizing that when a new expansion comes out, you should offer a boost so that everyone can just get on board and start playing that new expansion.
Yeah.
And I feel very strongly about that. I think it's a major improvement over the way we used to roll out World of Warcraft expansions. And while I understand the desire for a pure experience, we've we talk to death like Classic, just look like with Vanilla Classic, that like you can't truly go home again. We have too much knowledge now. It just inherently cannot be the same unless you can wipe our memories and get rid of all of the information that currently exists online about Vanilla. The same holds true for Burning Crusade. Now you can go back to Disney World, but you're going to know where Pirates of the Caribbean is. You're not going to have to go find it for the first time.
It's the worst analogy you've ever made, but I like it, and we're keeping it.
I disagree.
That the title of the show. I love it.
Whatever the case is.
But that's absolutely true. And but this is what I mean when I say that I have personally been quite surprised by which changes the community seems okay with and which changes the community doesn't seem okay with. And I'm not so surprised that the community and the kind of the dedicated Classic community has come out against the boost generally. I think like certainly the community that is still playing Classic regularly, and you'd expect to form the main kind of core of the community in Burning Crusade as a result. I think they've come out against the boost in general, and I would expect them to, and I completely respect their opinion. Quite frankly, their opinion is probably more important than mine. They are going to play BC much more than I'm going to at the end of the day, and probably much more than the majority of people that would use the boost as well, for that matter.
Yeah, and that's where I just go, well, those diehards, they're not going to need the boost anyway.
Well, exactly.
So.
And what surprises me is like the boost is something that I expect them to be against the boost just in principle, okay? But like on a deeper level, it surprises me because at the end of the day, the boost, someone else having a boost to play in TBC isn't going to affect your gameplay experience. Like, in fact, in any kind of competitive way, you know, it's going to put them at a disadvantage. Like coming through and starting on this boosted character with no gear and no gold, or barely any gold for that matter as well, you know, puts them at a massive disadvantage than someone who has leveled up through Classic and has been playing Classic and has like the resources to take part in an economy, and like a far greater percentage of players playing Classic are in much better positions in terms of economy and what have you than they ever would have done coming out of actual vanilla, because they're very prepared, Garrett. And they know what they're doing, so in that sense, like it actually has the opposite effect of being an advantage in going into BC for players who just want to come and be in BC compared to players that have come from Classic.
I think you could. I mean, there's a couple arguments. There's concerns about bots, but again, the boost is limited.
The bot argument is relevant, but I mean,
and even beyond bots, I mean, it's going to have an effect on the economy. Like no matter kind of how crappy you are, you can quickly get caught up on gathering professions, and there'll be more people gathering things, and it will drive down the price of certain items. But like that's the only one.
There'll be more buyers as well, and like, you know, it kind of evens out. And the botting thing is something that people are talking about a lot. I mean, if your natural reaction to something which shouldn't be affecting gameplay is yes, but the bots, then the problem isn't the thing, is it? The problem is the bots. Like, if your problem with a boost that is one per account and people have to pay for so people can play the content that they're coming back for, if your problem with that is yes, but the bots, then your game has a botting problem and not a boosting problem. You know, like, yes, there's a botting problem in Classic right now. Yes, that botting problem will move over to Burning Crusade. And yes, some bots are going to make use of the boost that is coming with Burning Crusade Classic to do bot stuff. But that's not a boosting problem, right? That's a bot problem. And, you know, if that's the problem that the game has, Blizz need to put more resources into tackling the bot problem, which they're clearly not, because they clearly see Classic and its sequels as being a very low maintenance exercise. You know, there's not a huge team working on it. Like, that's one of the enticing things about it as a project for them. They don't have GMs walking around in game like happened in actual vanilla and actual Burning Crusade. They don't have that. And what we need is to encourage Blizz or petition Blizz to give more resources to tackling these problems. And, you know, The bots are still going to be there without the boost, but we could have it so the bots aren't there with the boost. How's that?
That would be the perfect world, right? But at the moment, it seems like they made a call that is just like, well, boosts are going to positively impact more players. Then not having the boost will have a fighting impact on bots, I think, is like the call they had to make. And they went for, this is going to bring more players in the BC.
Yeah.
Which not only are they going to make money from the boost, but they're also going to have more engaged players in a new release in WoW Classic, which I just don't see a universe where they don't make that call, and they have made that call. So that's kind of my end thought there. But hey, while we're on the subject of the boost, there's something we can't boost, which is the new races. We cannot boost Blood Elves, and we cannot boost Draenei.
Yeah, and I guess rightfully so as well. Like, I mean,
but then there's another change wrapped up in that where we're going to be able to level them ahead of BC Classic's release, which was not something that we could do with the original release of Burning Crusade.
And my argument would be that that's actually a more game-altering thing. Like, that's an actual gameplay-altering thing. And I'm surprised that generally the community has been more in favor of things that genuinely alter the gameplay experience from what it was in Burning Crusade. So things like the way drums work in Burning Crusade are changing. It's not. I believe at the moment it's not going to be a leatherworking only thing, and also they're just generally getting nerfed, so they're not so OP. I mean, that's something that literally changes the gameplay experience of the original Burning Crusade. Like an oft-cited example is the seals being non-faction specific for paladins in Burning Crusade. That is quite an important gameplay change. It literally changes the experience of playing the game in a way that someone else getting a boost doesn't. And it has been surprising to me, not how much the community has been against the boost, but how they've been against that, but much more accepting and agreeable towards things that literally change the gameplay of Burning Crusade. Like, the seals mean it's not the same game. Like, the drums thing mean it's not the same game. Much more than the boost, I feel. But like I say, if hardcore classic players are coming out and saying, no, the seal is a good change and the drums are a good change, I have no doubt that they are good changes, but it comes back to the fact that, yeah, like fixing that bugged quest in vanilla would have been a good change, but I still didn't want it because I wanted the experience of playing vanilla. I wanted vanilla unbalance and all. I wanted vanilla accidentally OP single abilities and all. Like, I didn't want balance, I wanted it how it was. And for me, adding balancing changes undoubtedly make it a better gameplay experience for people who play the game, as their main game and don't want to play another game. They just want to play Burning Crusade. But it also, it changes the game in a way that a boost doesn't, surely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's an interesting way to frame it that I agree. Have I ever agreed with you more, Taliesin? It's an interesting way to frame it. But you're right. I mean, I've seen some pushback on the drums thing, but not a ton. And I think it's because a lot of us remember like how incentivized we were to go leatherworking in Burning Crusade. I didn't, because I was a filthy scrub who was not interested in helping my raid. And I really wanted a gyrocopter as an engineer, so I just stayed an engineer. But you really, really were incentivized, and I this is the thing I look at, and I think this is informed by Vanilla Classic. I think they have seen I bet they have seen things that have been strictly adhered to in Vanilla Classic, and they're just like, no, we want more variety in our game than this. I look at this and I really do think it's I don't know exactly what. But I bet there were some lessons learned in Vanilla Classic, and they're just like, I think they've got a better feeling for the types of changes that will be received more positively.
Did you?
There's never going to be a surefire home run. You're never going to please everyone. Sure. But I look at a lot of these changes that we're talking about. And I think they've learned a lot of lessons, and I think they're applying it in a smart way that's going to please a vast majority of players.
Oh, I think so too. And like, hear me out. I'm not against changing drums and seals. Like, I'm not sitting here going, God, I'm so looking forward to TBC. And do you know why? Because of those faction-specific seals for paladins. That's what made the game great, But the thing is, that's the kind of conversation people were having before Classic Vanilla. Like, if there'd been a similar situation with seals, in vanilla. And, you know, Blizzard come out and gone, I think we're going to make these seals non-faction specific, just because like one is broken and, you know, it's silly. It's just going to be a better experience for everyone if in vanilla we make the seals faction non-specific. I know that wasn't an issue, but as a thought experiment, I'm saying if it were, then there would have been uproar. There would have been uproar in the Classic community, and they'd have been like, well, this is typical of Blizz, and they're ruining it, and they're making it bad, and this is specifically what we didn't ask for. And it's interesting to me, like, one might even say, if one was being a dickhead about it, which I love being, one might even say they thought they did, but they didn't.
That's a real jab you're taking there.
A little bit, isn't it? Because now suddenly they're not just in favor of certain changes, but they are actively petitioning for certain changes. Like, it's an interesting conversation, because it's a conversation that I tried to have quite a lot before Classic. This idea of like, it's dramaturgy, right? Like, if you want to make, if you're making a movie, right, which is set in Victorian times, and it's based on real events in Victorian times, and there is this guy in Victorian times, and it's very important to the story because this is what happened in real life, that all women thought he was incredibly cool, not just attractive, but very cool and fashionable. Okay, then as a filmmaker, you've got a quandary, because you can present him wearing the exact clothes and having the exact hairstyle that he would have had in Victorian times, but we wouldn't associate that with being cool now. Okay, we wouldn't look at that character and instantly recognize that character as being very fashionable and cool, and being someone that people would react to as being like, that guy is really fashionable and cool. Because for us, he's wearing like a ridiculous hairstyle and he's wearing ridiculous clothes, and we don't go, that guy's cool. Like, we're much more likely to look at someone who is quite unfashionable in Victorian terms, because like he's got a haircut that we recognize as being quite modern, and he's the guy that we think's cool because like that guy's got cool hair for a Victorian dude. So what you do is you introduce dramaturgy, which is going, okay, we want the audience to recognize this guy as cool and fashionable. We can't actually do that by presenting him in the clothes that he would have worn, which would have been recognized as cool and fashionable at the time. So we make a tweak. And the change we make, we give him a slightly more modern haircut. Like, we give him slightly more modern feeling clothes so that a modern audience recognizes him as being as cool as people in Victorian times would have recognized him. Like, it's dramaturgy. So
Deadwood did this with cowboy cursing, because actual cowboy cursing was the dumbest sounding. They literally sounded like Yosemite Sam, and they were like, let's just have them say fuck, because then the audience will understand that they are foul-mouthed bastards.
Yeah. And like, Exactly. And so like that element of dramaturgy, I was like, well, how important is dramaturgy in Classic? You know, do you want a game that is exactly the same, or do you want a game that replicates the experience better? Because like having the game exactly the same would actually, ironically, in many ways, replicate the experience of playing that game less well than some changes you could make. And do you want the game which is like seriously exactly the same, or do you want a game that strives to replicate the experience better? And I think most of the Classic community, who were very much no changes at the time, would have said, no, the important thing is that the game is exactly the same. That's how we get the experience. And I think they realize now that dramaturgy exists, and actually, like, you can actually replicate the experience better by making changes. And I think that's like, I mean, they thought they did, but they didn't. And it turns out that designers know what they're talking about sometimes. And, you know, like once the emotional argument is over, we can actually go, well, people are more open to listening to the fact that actually you can replicate something better by changing it. Like you can replicate the experience of the original experience of something better by changing it. And
yeah, I guess to try and put a bow on this, I think the conversation we kind of keep dipping into here is like, are changes just inherently good or bad? And again, it's like we're getting in this it's in reality, it's crowd pleasing. Like how much can you crowd please? Because on the private server side of things, there were private servers that had tons of changes. You could just go roll a max level. There were vendors that sold gear so you could just start raiding right away. The difference was there were all kinds of different private servers, so you got to pick your poison. You got to go to the private server that aligned with the version of Old WoW that you personally wanted to play. Blizzard doesn't have that, so they're trying to please the widest group of players. Yeah. And so I think, like, for the most part, every person I talk to that plays Classic, they have their own personal way they would like to see it changed. I know nobody personally, I'm sure they exist, but I know no one personally who's just like vehemently against changes, just on principle.
Yeah, totally. And there are people in the chat right now saying, like, I think you're being simplistic about it. Most of the no changes movement was because of mistrust with Blizzard's recent design choices. And I don't buy that, because if that was the case, it wouldn't have been Blizzard that they were petitioning to release Classic. You know, they would have been petitioning for something completely different. They'd have been like, you know, it was Blizzard that they wanted to make it. They wanted like,
well, you get murky there too, because Blizzard also shut down one of the most popular private servers.
Yeah, true. But it was always, you know, like the biggest praise you could ever give a private server was it Blizz-like? You know, Blizz-like is an established term in the private server community, and it's a term of high praise, right? Like, you want your private server to be Blizz-like. And so, like, saying that the no changes thing,
some people did. This is a game where I think it gets murky, and I realize we're both talking in generalizations.
Just dismissing like the ferocity of the no changes movement and the stubbornness of the no changes like hashtag. And I say this as someone who was no changes as well, but just dismissing that as being people didn't trust Blizzard is like very, very disingenuous, I think.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But okay, well, let's move on to what I think is the biggest change, which is the phase rollout of Burning Crusade content.
Oh, you consider this the biggest change?
Yeah, because this isn't how it worked. This is not how it worked. Like, a vast majority of Burning Crusade's content was like technically in the game right from the get-go. I think it was like all the way up through Mount Hyjal was like technically in the game, but it required so much time of grinding through the raids that lead up to it and the attunements that you needed to complete that you just couldn't get to it. But now there's like you'll just straight up not be able to access Serpentine Cavern and the Eye like from day one. There's going to be phase one is like the only stuff that's going to be available is Karazhan, Gruul's Lair, and Magtheridon's Lair. That's it. If you do what you need to do to technically access Serpentine Cavern or the Eye, too bad it's not out yet. You got to wait till phase 2. And to me, that's a really big change. Because to me, even though like I was a total scrub in Burning Crusade, absolute scrub to a T.
I had setting up these jokes for me, Garrett. I have to ignore. I'm going to bite my tongue on that one, but I'm going to let it. I'm not going to reply.
You don't want no scrubs?
Well, that and
is
also,
that what you were going to say?
Like, you just emphasize. Well, you were, Garrett. You were. You made me do the joke. There you go.
I
wasn't going to, but you forced it out of me.
Yeah. Whatever the case is, I romanticized the fact, and I still do to this day, that this was how they used to build WoW. Like, at the time, my knowledge of this was sophomoric. I didn't have a lot of game knowledge, like metagame knowledge. I didn't really know what the end game of Burning Crusade was going to be until I got there and started figuring it out for myself, which I like playing WoW that way. But now I look back on it, and like the idea of like 75% of a World of Warcraft expansion technically being accessible, and the only thing stopping you from getting there is time invested. That's so cool. That's so cool to me. And good God, at the moment, could it look more romantic as a retail player right now at this exact moment as we're waiting for 9.1?
Yeah.
And so to me, yeah, I look at phases in BC content as a massive, massive change, because it was a cool feeling knowing the only thing that's stopping me from getting there is literally months of time played. As opposed to an arbitrary you just can't get there. Sorry, gate's not open. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand. I'm on your side with that as well. I feel like that's something that should be recreated. But again, you come to that kind of like recreation of what the game was. Okay, so like it was all open, but a proportion of the player base much, much larger would be blasting through to that content much, much quicker than ever would have actually happened in TBC. So like that's another thing where they're doing that to bleed more money from their player base, obviously, but also to better recreate how the content actually did work for most people back then. Because like, you were sitting there going, the only thing that's stopping me getting to this content is months of time played. But you weren't sitting there with that and also thinking, but loads of players have already done it. Like, anyone who's taken this game seriously has already done it. No, there's a much greater kind of spread of players, some of whom were much closer to that content than others. But that wouldn't happen in TBC Classic. You'd get like loads of guilds and serious players blasting through that content and doing it, and then suddenly you feel adrift in a way that you didn't when you actually played TBC.
Right,
so I get
right,
it.
exactly.
I agree with you, and I'd rather they did it how it was.
I'm not necessarily saying that. All I'm saying is that I think this is, in my eyes, the single biggest change of all the changes coming to BC Classic. I also completely understand why they're doing it, because again, look at like how fast things were cleared in Vanilla Classic. That is not how fast we got through raids when actual Classic was, or when actual Vanilla.
To all intents and purposes, they were cleared instantly. Like in
by WoW
terms.
standards. Yeah.
The people that got world first were the people who first set foot into the instance, right? I mean, it's just the way it goes, and like
and I like your term when you use the terminology of of a museum piece, right? Like it's kind of like having a guide. Like the phases, it's them kind of going, okay, we're gonna take you. First up is our Karazhan, Grulslayer, and Magtheridon's area. Here we're gonna see the history of these 3 raids before we move on to Serpentine Cavern and the Eye. And like it's a goofy analogy, but it's not a bad one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it quite a lot. And that's the thing. We can all appreciate that and still be kind of conflicted on how we feel about it. Like I completely appreciate the efforts to recreate the pacing of what happened naturally in original TBC and having to be quite artificial with that. And I can still yearn for them just having everything open, despite the way that would kind of really highlight how different the player base is now, and really highlight that TBC is an old game that people know their way around much more, and that it would highlight things that I wouldn't care to be reminded of in the game, but I would still, despite that, I still think I'd rather it all be open.
That's how I'm feeling too. It's just like, I get it, I respect it, I do kind of painfully think it's necessary, but I wish I could live in an ideal world where it could all be open and we all wouldn't just blast through it.
Yeah.
It's like, I want that perfect world, but that perfect world, it does not exist. We know too much. There's too many reasons. And if we don't already know, that information is too easily accessible online.
Yeah.
So,
and like, I do get a sense of wonder going into TBC Classic, and it's a different sense of wonder to modern WoW. But the sense I get from going to a new expansion, and when I first get into a new zone, like in the Shadowlands or what have you, is a better recreation of the sense I got when I first stepped into WoW than that wonder that I get stepping into TBC Classic. Like, I get a sense of wonder from TBC Classic that I don't get in modern WoW, but the sense of wonder I get from modern WoW from going into a new expansion and into new zones better recreates the feeling I got when I first stepped into WoW, because there's more unknown. I never in TBC Classic or Vanilla Classic for that matter get that sense of, I wonder what's behind that corner. Like, I wonder what's over that ridge. Like, I wonder who I'm going to meet now. I wonder what's going to happen. Like, and that's a sense that I got in WoW when I first started playing, and that's something that TBC and Classic can't recreate for me.
I think to a certain degree it also depends on how good your own memory is, because like I had little micro instances of that while I was playing yesterday. I was just like, okay, I gotta go to Reaver's Fall. Shit, where is Reaver's Fall? I don't remember where the hell that is.
I think it's far less of an issue in TBC than in Classic, actually, because TBC has not changed. Like there's stuff in Classic, and
that's fair,
that just isn't in the game anymore. Whereas TBC is pretty much like Hellfire Peninsula is the same now as it was the day it released. You know, like okay,
you're right,
scale now, and you can blast through them, but those quests are in the same place, and those quest givers, they don't say new shit. And there's no talk of the Cataclysm, and there's no like, you know, it's very, very much as it was on release. So my memory of TBC is much more accurate than anything that I ever found in Classic. So
I would like to point out though, I'm always amazed by how much just telling me where to go on the map just blinds me. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm an idiot again. I have no idea where I'm going.
Very good point. Now that is very important actually. That is
which day one I'm sure there'll be an add-on that will do that for us. But
and it is like hilarious how you know, and this, I mean, these lines, these text boxes are still in the game now, but you just don't read them anymore, right? Because you click on the quest and you're just looking for that question mark on your map, and that absolutely is different. So it is funny reading the quest text again, and it being, okay, yeah, you want to go and talk to this guy who is 400 paces to the south.
Yeah,
like, cool.
I scan. I scan for cardinal directions. That's how I'm reading in the beta right now. I'm just like I'm looking for north, south, east, west, or any combination of the four. I still
read quest text backwards. I still read from the bottom up because I know that towards the end is usually where the directions are.
Yeah, but then like yesterday I was doing the you got to go boil blood quests is like, and I'm like, oh, so I started that. I'm like, cool, find the cauldron. I found the cauldron. I'm like, oh shit, I need blood first.
Yeah.
Like, I need to kill orcs for blood. And then I started getting blood and I'm like, why isn't this completing the quest? Oh, because I need to go back to the cauldron and boil it. And there's certain, like I was saying, I had micro instances of having to discover things again, of being like, where is it? And then I played on Alliance way more than Horde in BC. And so I rolled a Horde for beta, and I was just like, all right, I got to go kill demons, but they're really far away. They're over by Honor Hold. And like, oh shit, they gave the same demons in an area that's more centrally located for the Horde, in an area I like never went to. And that's when I got stepped on by the Fell Reaver because I wasn't used to being over there and didn't remember what the Fell Reaver's patrolling path was like.
There was definitely more of a sense of discovery in playing OG Classic than TBC Classic for me so far. But then that will kind of, you know, change as I get into different zones and stuff as well, because obviously I've played through Hellfire Peninsula like hundreds and hundreds of times in my life. Like I could find my way around that place blindfold. Like I
could on a flying mount. It's been a while since I've done it on the ground.
And you know, like, so obviously that sense of not knowing what's around every turn will be increased when I get to places like Tracker Forest and like Negrand. Not so much Negrand actually, but like, you know, other places.
It depends on the zones. Like I feel like I have a really, really good memory of Netherstorm, but I have a shit memory of Blade's Edge because I used to just skip Blade's Edge. You can skip Blade's Edge in the leveling. Zangarmarsh is burned in my memory, and it's the number one zone I want to get the hell out of. But for me, it's like just seeing the story at level. And so the sense of wonder I get from TBC is like, gosh, I'm in for a long haul here. So much to be doing. And whereas like the sense of discovery, I get much better from a new expansion in modern WoW now than I would from Classic. And that will be the same for Wrath Classic as well. You know, I know my way around those zones like the back of my hand, and so there's going to be very little sense of discovery in Wrath, but I'm still going to enjoy it. I'm just far more likely to get that from a new WoW expansion now, and that's I'd imagine that's going to be the case for a lot of people. I really do. I'm like my hope and my dream for when Vanilla Classic was announced, and this hasn't been realized for me, was that like me and all my WoW friends were gonna have our garage of max level tunes over in Classic, and we would have like a weekend where it's like, all right, everybody, it's Molten Core weekend. Meet us over in Classic, and we're gonna dust off our Classic cars and go have a Classic car show. And it just never happened. And I'm hoping that'll happen with BC. And when we inevitably get Wrath of the Lich King Classic, I'm pretty sure I'm going to force that to become a reality. If I have to do it myself and be like, okay, everybody, this weekend we're going to go run Wrath Naxxramas or whatever, or Ulduar. Like that's what's going down. I'm going to make that a reality because I want it so bad, because like that's an analogy I keep coming back to. You know, as someone who actually enjoys going to car shows, I really do look at World of Warcraft players. I think we're all classic car nerds, but we have our niches. Like some of us like muscle cars, some of us like imports, some of us like Euro cars. And that's more, the more of these classic releases that come out in tandem with an ever evolving retail, the more of a reality that is. Like you can play WoW and I have to ask you, well, what kind of WoW are you into? And I just think that's cool. I think more WoW is inherently a good thing.
Yeah.
Whether I'm personally really, really bought into it or not.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God. I love, I love that people are getting what they want with TBC. And that's why, like, I bring up the point that from a personal point of view, I would consider something like the seals or the drums a bigger change than a boost. But I'm not trying to, like, attach any importance to my opinion there. I can't change my opinion. I can't change the way I feel about it. And I'm imparting my opinion because I'm a white guy on a podcast and that's what we do. And like,
that's what we were born to do, Taliesin.
Exactly. And that's my right and privilege, God damn it. And I'm going to take it. But like, I'm not trying to attach any importance to my opinion at all because like, I know that I'm not going to play as much TBC as a lot of other players. And hey man, if they want drums to be different and if they want the seals to be different, then it's not what I come to TBC for, but I'm not as important as them, honestly. It's absolutely fine. Like I'd much rather S-Fan gets what he wants from Classic than me, to be perfectly fair, because he appreciates it more and he wants it more and he enjoys it more, and that's terrific. I think that's really great. So he can just shit on everything I want from TBC and that's just fine. I don't mind. And likewise, I feel the same in Shadowlands as well, you know, like I didn't want the ripcord pulled and I'm glad it wasn't pulled, and I think the game is better for not having it pulled, and I'm glad that they stuck to their guns on that. But honestly, if everyone's moaning about it, if it really would increase the enjoyment of most players of the game, just let them have it. I don't care.
That's how I feel as well. And frankly, I was really hoping for boost. That was like the number one change I was hoping for, and I'm getting it. So I'm personally
bottom line, there's much more chance that I'm going to play more TBC because of the boost than without it. Simple as that. You know?
Same.
Simple as that. And you know what? The more real life people are coming back to the game because of the boost and playing the game because of the boost, the greater ratio there is of real life players to bots. And that's a good thing, right?
Which, by the way, folks, Vanilla Classic players, please tweet at me at Garrett Art with your laziest gold making tips so I can get an epic mount before I go to Burning Crusade.
Dude, the videos still exist from like 2008 on YouTube. What are you talking about? Get on.
I don't want to watch that 480p bullshit. Like, no, I want it curated for me. Listen, this is what I want in exchange. Okay, we don't. No one pays for this show. This is what I want in payment for this entertainment. Okay. I want the laziest explanation about how my hunter can grind gold for an epic mount. Like I want the absolute least amount of effort I could possibly put into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please and thank you. I think he's still mining and Skinner at the moment.
Of course, if like, you know, we were all very staunchly no changes for OG Classic, and we're all kind of like hashtag quite a few changes for TBC, then, you know, by the law of shift, by the time we get to Wrath, it's going to be hashtag all the changes, right? So I reckon by the time Wrath comes along, Lich King store mount. You'll be able to buy Arthas to ride around Wrath of the Lich King Classic. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, this
and everyone will be like,
we haven't talked about.
Exactly what I want.
Yeah, there's gonna be a deluxe version with a mount, a phase stalker mount.
Well, okay, so like joking aside, this is something that looks like it is going to be happening with TBC. So there's a lot of another one of the controversies with TBC Classic is there's a lot of talk about.
Could you say controversy again? I just love the way you say
controversy.
Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, it's just great. It's great.
You weren't here for the great aluminium controversy, but
well, you actually, and I learned this. You actually spell aluminium with an extra letter.
Yeah.
So it makes all the sense in the world to me.
And when you think about it in those terms, it does. But it's still fun to laugh at. And there's a lot of talk about the possibility of a store mount in Burning Crusade. There is a mount that has been data mined, where it's a nether lizard thing. What are they called?
The nether drakes?
No, not nether drake. No,
So you're talking about the mount that we're pretty sure we're getting from the deluxe version?
Yes, exactly.
That's a phase stalker.
Shadow stalker. Thank you very much. Phase stalker.
Phase.
Yeah,
phase.
They disappear. And warp stalker, nether stalker is the way I've seen it described. Nether stalker is the word.
Okay. I was calling phase
which
stalkers.
is why I used the word nether. But and it's got like some new armor on it, but it's very low res, and it's quite clearly intended for Burning Crusade because of its low polygon count and things like that. And I think everyone knows it's for a deluxe version. I think everyone knows there's going to be a deluxe version with like a pet and some toys and probably a boost included in the price and the mount as well. But people have, again, rather disingenuously, but we all love clicks, right? People have tried to turn this into a conversation about, Blizzard putting a mount store into Classic, and is that okay? And kind of like warp stalkering the conversation.
Well, boy, it really feels like they're trying to bring the slippery slope politic argument into a mount thing.
Kind of, but it makes me wonder, what was the first mount store mount in World of Warcraft?
Wasn't it the Sparkle Pony?
And when did it come out?
I don't remember, man. I do not remember.
Wrath? It was
chat room saying it was the Celestial Steed and it was Wrath.
So my question is this: when Wrath Classic rolls along, do we allow the Celestial Steed? Do we resell the Celestial Steed? If you've got the Celestial Steed on your retail account, can you have it in Wrath of the Lich King Classic? This is a conversation
I think a better question is, am I even interested in this conversation?
Well, the answer is clearly yes, you should.
I guess it's fascinating.
Yes,
that's an interesting question enough, right? I think the only fair way to do this is for them to pull your invoice and be like, "Did you buy this during Wrath of the Lich King?" Because if yes, we're sending you a Celestial Steed. So, if not,
interesting.
Fork you buy another one.
Brilliant. So if you have the pony, but you bought it after Wrath of the Lich King, fuck you. But if you bought it during Wrath of the Lich King, you can have that shit in game. Wow, isn't that rewarding like the biggest whales, though? Isn't that rewarding the exact people that the Classic community wouldn't want rewarded? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, it's like, at least I waited till I could get it with my in-game gold, right? Whereas, like, this absolute mark bought it when it was on the store for real-life money, but they get to have it in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and I don't know, man.
I think we need this now. We need to assign generations to WoW players, because I think like vanilla Classic players, they're boomers, and I think once you get to Wrath of the Lich King, you get to millennials, and everything is impermanent, and nothing matters. And we don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's interesting, and like the idea of and that obviously we don't want to store mount in Burning Crusade Classic. But how do you feel about the mount that we think is going to be in the deluxe edition?
I like my gut reaction is like, I do not fucking care at all. I do remember thinking Warp Stalkers were cool as shit back in the day when I went out to Burning Crusade. I walked into Terracar Forest and I saw one for the first time. Like, that is it's a mount I would like to have, and maybe I'll just go get myself the deluxe edition and ride around on it. But what's one more mount? I don't know. I play retail. I can't divorce my past experiences. Retail is lousy with store mounts. Retail is lousy with pre-order and deluxe edition and collector's edition bonuses. There's just so much now that it's kind of irrelevant. There's just, you can only be riding one mount at a time. Who cares? We all have hundreds of mounts at this point. So to me, adding one mount that wasn't there before, again, this comes back to, this is why I think phase rollout is the single biggest change, because I look at, there's going to be a mount running around that technically wasn't something you could get before, but it's a model that exists in Burning Crusade. So whatever, sure, it fits with the expansion. I'm down with that. If they want to add like 10 more colors of nether drakes that I can grind eggs for, let's do it. Get it in there.
Oh man, you're getting so doxxed. You're getting so harassed.
Dude, burn it all down. Burn it all down. Nothing is sacred.
I'm so sorry. I just want everyone to know that even though I agree with him, I don't agree with this man. Okay, I think this guy is
nothing
evil.
is sacred.
I think he's everything wrong with the player base. Please don't harass me.
I am more hardcore than the most hardcore classic players because if you want to have an OG Burning Crusade experience, build a time machine or have played it back in the day. I'm sorry if you weren't cool enough to play back then, but you missed out.
Oh man, it was nice knowing you, Garrett. Like, I've enjoyed this show. It's been really good, and I'm sorry that you're going to get murdered in your sleep. I am sorry about that.
I mean, I live in Florida. You'll be more likely eaten by a gator or shot by one of my neighbors before you get into my home. So.
Facts. Okay. Well, I feel better about that. That's fine.
You have to make it past my guard rattlesnake first, okay?
Listen, man. I've had my museum experience now with classics, so I just want whatever going to make people happy. And like, it is surprising to me that people who would venerate like TBC as a gameplay experience, and you know, in the way that's so much better than modern WoW and stuff. Which I'm not saying they're wrong; like, they're entitled to their opinion. It's absolutely fine. In many ways, it absolutely is. But it surprises me that it's those people who are okay with like literal game changes, like the drums and the seals, but you know, like a mount that doesn't affect the way the game plays is not okay, but something that does affect the gameplay is okay.
I understand emotionally where it's coming from, because for a lot of people, like the store in general is like as a negative feeling assigned to modern WoW. And these classic re-releases are this escape from that, right? And so I can see how you see a mount you can buy, and you just like you have an emotional reaction. I did too. Like, but I didn't go, "Oh, this is shitty." My first thought was, "Oh, everyone's gonna be pissed about this," because I understand why they're gonna be pissed about it. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get where they're coming from.
But it does kind of, for me, and I'm gonna do some homespun psychology now. Like, based on basically no evidence. But it suggests to me that a lot of the kind of let's call it gatekeeping, just for want of a better word, a lot of the gatekeeping around the game is less to do with preserving like the purity of what the game was and the gameplay experience and the mechanics of the game, because as we've seen, like, they're okay with changing that, you know, to make it better. So it's less about that and more about literally just kind of preserving the game for what they view as being proper gamers, i.e. people that will dedicate more time than is like rational or to the game. And like, it feels I'm not eloquating this very well. It feels like that they are trying to preserve something about the game, but it might be the wrong things, or it might be things which are different from what they claim to be wanting to preserve and keep pure about the game.
I don't know. This is where, like,
which I kind of consider to be quite an American idea, but it is like relevant to all places, particularly at the moment, is that the problem, aside from, I know like bots is the buzzword when you're talking about the boost now, but I think it really comes from the idea that someone who hasn't worked as hard as you could have the same things as you. And even though that doesn't change the purity of the game, and it doesn't change the game from being the game that you wanted to preserve, it still ruffles your jib, because this idea that someone's got something that they didn't work for, you know? And even though it doesn't affect you in any way, there's something wrong with that, right?
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't. You're getting into a concept that definitely exists. Not one that I particularly agree with. Like when I get on my back in my day rants, like, it's a bit. I'm trying to be funny. I don't really care. Like before, when I was yelling, "Burn it all down!" If you want a real Burning Crusade experience, you should have played when it originally came out. Like, I do kind of feel that way, but also just in terms of like reality and the thing we've been talking about this whole episode, which is you can't go home again. We have too much knowledge now. It's also true. You just can't have a true, pure BC experience again. It's going. It is inherently going to change.
People are trying to talk about bots again in the chat, and I just really don't buy it. Like, there were bots in TBC, right?
That's where I am. That's where my WoW classic nihilism comes from. It's like the economy is so properly screwed in vanilla classic. Like, that's a problem for Blizzard. I don't think my friends wanting to join me in Burning Crusade Classic on launch day through a boost should be punished because Blizzard can't fix their bot problem. Mm. That's just like, all I can tell you is my personal feeling, and that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Agree. And like, bots are kind of like farming materials to sell for gold and stuff because people are paying cash for gold in classic, right? Like, there's a real money gold economy in classic. And so, dudes, I mean, you know what really helped wipe that out in retail? WoW token. But obviously we don't want that. But like, what I'm saying is, if you actually wanted to wipe out the bots, WoW token would fucking help. Just saying. But obviously no one wants that. So there is a line, and there is like, there is, however people feel about this, there is a line that they are either side on what changes are okay to get rid of the bot, like the bots. Like, the WoW token would have a really positive effect on bots. Like, it would definitely decrease them. But obviously, I'm not suggesting we actually do that, because that's not what anyone wants. But it's just finding where that line is. Interesting.
I'm just, there's certain people in chat who are unmoved, and I'm just kind of bored of fighting. Like, I'm just kind of, I'm kind of done, and I don't want this just to be the big great bot debate. Because I'm just gonna put my head down and ignore it. Like, I guess I don't understand why you care that much. Like, if set your own limitations, like, you really want, I don't know, if you want to feel accomplished, cool, don't buy gold. No one's forcing you to. Go grind it the old fashioned way.
Yeah. But like, yeah, exactly. And like, I just feel like if I had played TBC and I'd come from classic, if I come from vanilla and I played TBC, so when TBC launched, I had a max level character that TBC launched, and I had the excitement of launch day, and I went in through the Dark Portal, I went to Hellfire Peninsula. That's the experience I want to recreate. And if I didn't play classic WoW, then me as a returning TBC player, I'm not being allowed to recreate my experience of TBC. I'm not being allowed to have my nostalgia of TBC, because you're asking me to. You're saying if you didn't play OG Classic, screw you. Like, you don't get to relive your experience because you didn't join in this other game. And I don't know. I just don't see why it bothers people so much, honestly.
I mean, you did have to level up if you wanted to play BC. There was no boost.
No. But what I mean is, like, your experience of TBC was playing on launch day and being there at the beginning of everywhere else, because you did play vanilla, right? But if you didn't play classic,
did you really? Because the servers were crashing, because it wasn't sharding.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. And like, like, you should be able to relive that experience without having been on the classic boat, right? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of kind of willfully not recognizing that people's experiences of TBC, which they want to recreate, are different and were different. And, like, your experience of TBC wasn't the only one. And, like, you being able to recreate your experience of TBC because you did play classic, I don't know. I'm wanting to block people out of being able to relive their experience of TBC because they didn't play classic. It just seems like spiteful, honestly. Rather than something that improves the game, which
I don't want to go there, because improvement is up. It is up for debate.
Yeah.
Like, it is not objective. This everything we've talked about today is subjective. We just both we're falling on the side of it's positive for us. And even for me, the phases, which I kind of hurts, I understand the necessity for. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go down that path. I don't want to go down the path of like passing. Like, I get if you don't want boost. I get it. I just don't agree. Like, I don't.
Oh, I totally understand the arguments against the boost. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I do.
Yeah. I just don't want to. I don't want to call them. I don't want to call them spiteful. I guess is what I don't want to do.
I'm not calling the people spiteful. I'm not. I just feel like, without realizing it, some knee-jerk reactions to it come across as spiteful. I'm not saying you are spiteful people. I'm saying like a reaction you're having seems pretty spiteful right now.
Okay, I think that's fair. That's fair enough.
I know that's a nuance that you can't really do on the internet. I know that's a nuance you're not allowed to have on the internet, but it's true.
Well, we try. We certainly try on the podcast. That's why they're long. We try to bring nuance. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the leveling experience is important in TBC, but people want the TBC leveling experience, as in the leveling experience that they remember having, because they were max level when TBC launched, but they haven't played Classic. They played Vanilla, but they didn't play Classic. Let's not pretend that there's no leveling experience in. There's obviously people want a leveling experience in TBC, but they want the 50 to 60, or the 60 to 70 experience, and that's what I don't know. It just seems like a really mean-hearted kind of. You just don't want someone to have this because you don't feel like they've earned it. That's what it comes down to. You don't want someone to be able to just enjoy this game, which is a recreation of an old game, and you don't feel like they've earned being able to relive their nostalgia of it. And that's what I feel it comes down to. And all this talk about botting, there are genuine concerns with the bots and things, but I think most people are using it as a talking point because they don't want to just say what they're actually feeling, which is, you haven't earned this. That's the impression I get from a lot of people. I'm not saying that's even a wrong thing to have, but I think that a lot of people know it's a bit of a mean-spirited take, which is why they're using the botting thing instead.
Yeah, I guess if like I can understand. People are legitimately frustrated at bots, and if that's where you're coming from, I am on board with your frustration. But yeah, if you just want. I don't know, if you just want people to like go through the same long ass grind through content they are disinterested in as you, that's where I break from you. It's like, as I've already mentioned, I just want to play BC with my friends.
It's an interesting point in the chat. Not everyone was though. I played TBC back in the day, but I played the 1 to 60 experience. I had people to level with. Nowadays, and with the boost, that's not going to be possible. The thing you've got to remember is most people that would use the boost wouldn't be leveling through 1 to 60. So those aren't people that are going to be missing from your 1 to 60 experience if that's what you want to do in TBC. Those people
so what you're saying
still
is you
wouldn't be in the 160 experience. Those people aren't going to be in through the Dark Portal instead of leveling with you. They just wouldn't. They would never be leveling with you in any scenario because the only reason they're playing is because of the boost. You're not losing those people from your 1 to 60 experience because of the boost. It's just a gain for people doing the 60 to 70 experience. In my opinion,
So you're saying that if without the boost, there's a noteworthy amount of players that just wouldn't even play.
Yeah,
BC
for sure.
Classic.
100%.
I agree. I agree.
On the surface, it's absolutely a valid argument to say, well, no, part of it is that it's going to render the 1 to 60 experience barren because people are just going to skip it and go. It's I'm just not so sure that's the case. For a start, there's only one boost per account. So if anyone wants an alt, for a start, most people that have been playing Classic have got max level characters. So the people that are running through 1 to 60 are majority going to be people running alts. Well, that's going to be the case for people that used a boost as well. If they want an alt, they're going to have to take it through 1 to 60. There's more chance that someone is going to return to the game because there's a boost and then start an alt, which they're going to have to run through level 60, than someone came through and just went 1 to 60 without any boosting. I feel there's more chance of that person being a player in the game because of the boost. And I just don't think it's going to have the decimating effect on the 1 to 60 experience that people are saying it will. Because I just don't think those players would be running the 1 to 60 experience anyway. who are coming back.
I'm, as always, I think there's wiggle room. I'm sure there's a few players who might consider it,
of course, you can
but
find
I think the
examples
vast
that disprove
majority.
anything. Yeah, as a blanket statement. Of course, there are always examples.
I'm just trying to I'm pre-replying to.
I completely understand, and you're right to. And of course, you could always there's always going to be anecdotally actually, blah blah. But I'm talking, in majority scenarios here.
I think that's fair. So, overall, I'm like, I came out of the beta, my first day with the beta, more hyped for BC Classic than less.
Me too. And I'm actually really surprised about that. And I feel like my hype from TBC comes from a place of just really looking forward to playing the game. And that wasn't so much the case in Classic. I was super hyped for Classic and I was really looking forward to it. And it was only actually when I started playing the game that my initial hype wasn't really anything to do with playing a good video game. It was just I wanted to see that museum piece and I wanted to relive a part of history and feel like I was there.
Well, then you also had a pretty unique social experience too, because you were running with your guildmates.
Oh yeah, sure, and I was doing it on stream as well. So actually, it was a very public experience, more so than I think anyone's first experience of WoW.
I don't know about you, man. I used to play on a projector in a movie theater, and people would come and watch me, and I had a PA system where I would.
I'm going to do the same in TBC. I absolutely will have a character that I play on stream with. But I was also very, very much like a character that is my offline character, like I have in WoW as well, where I can just put my headphones on and enjoy that Chopin music in Hellfire Peninsula and just be and live it and experience it in my own time, my own pace, without having to be boring for my stream, because that's what they expect. I can actually be the entertaining, natural Taliesin I am in private. And just enjoy it, on my own terms, 100%. And that wasn't something that I felt with Classic initially. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am as well.
Mm.
So, well, I think this is as good as any place to kind of put a bow on this conversation for now. I think there's going to be more BC Classic.
Is there anything else on the list that you want to cover very quickly from the changes?
I mean, there's a few things. We didn't talk about the fact that they did say, because one of the big concerns from Vanilla Classic was because they were running on the final patch, a lot of the bosses were also just straight up easier, which also contributed to burning through raids faster. In conjunction with the fact that we knew what resist gear we needed, we knew the boss mechanics, we knew what gear level we should be at. But they did say that they're gonna tweak certain bosses, even though BC Classic will be doing a similar thing and be running on a late patch. Expect certain bosses to be hand tuned.
Well, I mean, and is it just? You're not talking about adding surprise abilities or anything like that.
No, numbers.
Gruul's not going to go into a mythic phase or whatever. And
No. Although I think that would be rad as a burn all down nihilist.
On one boss, can we just have the floor disappear? Can we just do that? Can we just one boss just for the lols? I mean, I've told you what I would do anyway. If I was a dev, I would announce the launch day of TBC Classic to be on April Fool's Day, and I would have everyone that walked in through that dark portal appear in WOD.
Just as an April Fool's?
Just as the most expensive April Fool's joke of all the time. I would have them walk through that dark portal and be like, TBC Classic is here, way! And they go in, and it's WOD, and just for the world would be on fire. It would be amazing. And I'd go, psych, it's the actual launch day tomorrow. Today we're literally just laughing at you. And it'd be brilliant. And some people would like it.
They should do that for the pre-patch event.
Absolutely.
Which are they going to do that? Have they said if they're doing that? That's something I could not find. I tried looking it up before this, and I can't find any reference to if they've even talked about having a pre-patch event or a pre-expansion event.
But I would do that if I was a dev, and that's why I'll never be a dev. I would do that as well, just for one boss, just for one patch, just for the first week that the boss was out or whatever. So only the proper private server guys would ever even see it. But I'd have some surprise mechanic that F's them up. I just think it'd be really funny. But you mean just hand tuning, right? You just like
yes.
the numbers. And I think that's perfectly legitimate. That's something that private servers have always done. Don't you remember when Classic first launched and people were like, these bosses are not powerful enough? And it's because private servers had been bumping the numbers up to make the game more challenging and more fun because people were so pro at it. And I think that's a legitimate thing to do. I think that's some good
and I think the terminology they use, I can't find the direct quote, but I'm pretty sure they said certain bosses will be in their quote unquote pre-nerf states.
Yes.
So yeah, they should be harder than they would be if they were where they would be if on the final patch, because a lot of bosses got nerfed over time. But again, they said it would be 4 at a time. So I'm sure at some point in one, I wouldn't be surprised on phase 2 or 3 if phase 1 bosses got nerfed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which would make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, beyond that, I don't know. I mean, we talked about Paladin Seals. You're going to be able to have more than the number of players for an arena team on an arena roster, which was something you couldn't do back in Burning Crusade. I look at that and I just go, cool, good quality of life change. Yeah. That's just more. I mean, it does technically change things again. But if you haven't noticed by this point in the show, I am at burn it all down, fuck purity.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that people are having a more nuanced take on this. And there might be some changes that I disagree with, and some changes that I agree with that other people don't. But overall, the conversation around how to best present this game and how to best recreate the experience of this game is so much more nuanced than the build up to Classic, and I really appreciate that. And I think the game and the community can only be better for it. So I think that's overall a very, very good thing. Not the changes themselves, but just the fact that most people are willing to have a more nuanced approach to the changes and kind of understanding of the changes. I think that's really good.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you want to get into a really deep, meaningful conversation about spell batching, which is the other change we haven't talked about.
Oh, just run it by us super quick, just for completion's sake.
Well, just that spell batching won't be in the game because we have modern computers and modern internet connections.
Yeah, with less latency.
we don't need it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Having spell batching wouldn't really recreate the experience of Burning Crusade. It would be a different thing with the hardware that we have now, the software that we have now. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in chat room, that's where it would literally batch spells because it could only reconcile so many things at once, and so it would kind of group actions that were being taken in a raid environment and let them kind of through the threshold of action in groups as opposed to as they're cast. Is my best way. I'm probably explaining it poorly.
No, I think you explained it very well.
Okay. Yeah. I love Derek's in the chat room. You guys have modern computers? Derek's over there building their period appropriate BC Classic build on what would that be? An Intel Core 2 Duo? No, I was playing Wrath on that. Core 2 Duo would have been high end for Burning Crusade. So I don't know what we would have been on before that. I was playing PC on a Mac, so yeah. But those are the big things. Those are the big things for BC. I'm sure we'll return to it at some point, maybe before release.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, we don't know how long this beta period is going to be. I suspect it's not going to be very long, and I suspect one of the reasons for that is that I don't think it needs to be. They a lot of this work is stuff that they kind of learn how to do. It's not, it's got more in common with the work that they did for Classic than it would be for a new expansion, say. So it's recreating stuff which they're better at doing now, and it's making the changes that they're going to make, and that's one reason why I think the beta period won't be very long. The other reason I think the beta period won't be very long is because I think they are probably under a bit of pressure at Blizzard to get this out because it's going to be in lieu of 9.1 in Shadowlands. I think originally the plan would have been for 9.1 to be out now, and Burning Crusade Classic to quite happily come out in that August/September slot, which we would have expected. And I suspect, this is based on nothing, I suspect they probably are under a bit of pressure to get Burning Crusade out a bit quicker now. because it's clearly going to come out before 9.1.
I would think so as well, and they've already announced phases, so they can they can tweak shit coming down the line.
Absolutely.
After launch, like they can get Serpent Shrine, they can get the Eye, they can get Mount Hyjal, Black Temple, all those things tuned after launch BC Classic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think they might be under very similar pressure. And again, like my personal, how hard I'm going to hit BC Classic at launch is entirely dependent on if 9.1 is out yet or not.
Yeah, so. I mean, because I abandoned, like, I loved Classic and I had a really good time in it. I abandoned it the second 8.3 came out, and 8.3 was kind of trash.
I did as well, and yeah, I was way less bought into 8.3 than you. Like, I don't make as like as much WoW specific content as you do. So like, I was just like, oh, 8.3 is not that great. I guess I just don't have to play it that much. So
but I'm always just going to be more interested in new stuff than old stuff, really, I guess. But I mean, I'm still, there's much about TBC Classic which will be new for me, so it'll be exciting. I
have to be in that grind mood, like a very specific grindy mood, like a really grindy mood, if I want to be leveling up in Classic, and that mood does strike, and that's when I go back and I dust off my hunter and I get another half level to 57 or whatever. I think I'm 56 over there. But yeah, I too, I'm primarily, I can consider myself a retail player. Yeah.
And I'm not saying new is always better. No, I'm just saying, like, I'm always going to be more interested in new stuff. Like, you don't, no one thinks that every new movie that comes out is better than The Godfather, right? But you don't sit at home watching The Godfather instead of going to the cinema and watching a new movie, because like you automatically have an interest in the new stuff, and you don't go, well, let's be honest, like that new Marvel movie is not going to be as good as The Godfather, so instead of going to watch it, I'm going to sit at home and watch The Godfather again. No, obviously you have an interest in the new stuff that comes out. That doesn't mean you think it's going to be better, or you assume it's going to be better, or that it is better. Like, it's it's a human thing to be more interested in the new stuff.
All right, pick your adventure. Do you want a Star Wars analogy or a car analogy?
Star Wars, please.
Okay, yeah, dude.
Extra points if it's a hot Last Jedi take.
I don't know what you're talking about, Taliesin. Rise of Skywalker came out, and I never need to watch Empire Strikes Back ever again.
It almost was a hot Last Jedi take. That's good.
I'm not going there. Save it for the after show, everybody. So yeah, I think this is where we'll kind of wrap up our BC Classic beta anyway. Our Boosting Crusade Classic conversation for now. I'm sure we will return to it. But let us know your thoughts, everybody. Write in wowkillercast@gmail.com. That is where we can be reached. You can tweet at the show at wowkillercast. Taliesin, I promoted a WoW social group the last time I was on here, and I had a wonderful, wonderful time hanging out and running mythics one Sunday with that social group from people that joined from hearing about it on this podcast.
That's awesome.
I have since renamed it because people were like, I don't want to explain what a dick hungry chicken is to my friends that I invite to this group. And so I didn't know what else to call it, but I'm on the instance. I'm on WoW Killer, and we're mostly running mythics in this. So I named it Instance Killers.
Oh, good.
Now the
nice
name
one. Fitting as well. Actually makes sense. Like genuine sense. That's great. I'm very
yeah. So that's what it's called. And you can join it by going to bit.ly/instancekillers. It's a link set to never expire to join that WoW social group. And so come hang out, make some friends. Y'all do whatever you want, but I tend to go in there and be like, yo, who wants to run a mythic? That's usually what I do, what I use it for. So go join that. Some really great people I met in there. Had a lovely Sunday of just sitting there snacking on Doritos, running mythics with folks that listen to this podcast, and really enjoyed it. So anyways, if folks are unaware of where to find you, Tally, you make a lot of WoW content. Where can people find it?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube mostly. If you find Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube, that's where we'll be. And if you find us on Twitter, it's Taliesin and Evitel. And if you find us on Twitch, well, you've already found us on Twitch if you're watching this live, because this is where we record it, but it's Taliesin and Evitel there as well. And it's where you can come to watch this show recorded live with the pre-show and the post-show at that. Hey, you know who else found my Twitter recently? 80s crooner Richard Marks. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm gonna be there, right there, waiting for you. That guy, accidentally, and without knowing who I am, obviously, he just did a random search for GIFs on Twitter, but he tweeted out literally like a picture of my face, a GIF of my face yesterday.
Just because it worked, he found it on the GIF keyboard, didn't know who you were, not a WoW fan. It was literally
just the first thing that came up when he typed in a phrase into the GIF keyboard, obviously, but it just happened to be a picture of my face. So I had a lot of my friends on Facebook like contact me going, do you know Richard Marx just tweeted a GIF of your face? And I was I feel I don't know whether to right be now.
Amused by the fact that happened or confused that so many of your listeners even know who Richard Marx is.
No, I said my Facebook friends who are generally much older.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I was like, man, listen, I get that WoW players are old, but I didn't know we were that old.
It was very strange. And I enjoyed it immensely. So it was one of those things where a lot of my school friends thought I was cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's sick.
But so yeah, please go to Twitter and tweet out GIFs of my face. It makes my school friends think I'm awesome. That'd be really good. Thanks.
I will do that. I have used your GIFs on more than one occasion. I will continue to do so.
Thank you.
I can be found on Twitter at Garrett Art. That is my Twitter handle. You can see me tweeting nonsense over there. I recently built that Sylvanas statue behind me, and there's
congrats.
There's an assembly video on over at Twitter.arrow. Just Garrett Art on Twitter. Go find it over there if you want to see me building that with bad lighting. Sorry, I didn't realize until late, and then I turned a good light on. amove.tv for this podcast and every single other one that I produce. Go there. Angry Chicken for Hearthstone, Into the Nexus for Heroes of the Storm, and I don't produce the instance, but I can be found on there as well if you want to hear me talking even more World of Warcraft, which this week I'm sure will be me explaining what BC Classic Beta was like to Scott, who has no interest in it. Yeah. So,
does he not at all? He's not fussed. I thought he'd be into it.
No. Did you listen to the instance back when Patrick was on it regularly and Classic came out? Because it was mostly me just going, you old grumpy men.
I can't stand Patrick Beja. He's the worst.
I love Patrick.
I refuse to listen to anything with Patrick Beja. That Joker. Worst is when I'm on Pixels with him and I have to bite my tongue. I'm like, it's the absolute hate this guy
pit.
so much.
Yeah, no. Some people think like we hate each other because we have really, really spirited debates about World of Warcraft spoilers, and he's legitimately one of my favorite human beings in the world.
Me too. I just want to make that very clear as well. I just in case my sarcasm didn't read. I love that man.
Yeah,
probably quite a bit more than you. I'd rather him on this show if I'm honest. On my show, I'd rather him was the guest, but don't always get what you want in life, do you?
I see how it is. All right, well, cool.
I'm joking again. You're the best.
No, you're not. I get it. I get it. Listen,
better
buddy.
Than Patrick Beja, okay?
I'm gonna pick up my Burning Crusade boost, and I'm going home. All right, I'll talk to you later. That's gonna do it for the show. I'll never be back again. See you never for the next WoW killer. Good luck and have fun, everyone.
Is that the end of the show? Have we done it?
That is the end of the show.
Oh, phew, thank goodness for that.